The NBC Radio Network has canceled all regularly scheduled programs to bring you this continuous coverage of the events surrounding the death of the late President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. We now pause 10 seconds for station identification.
WLW Radio and the Crosley Broadcasting Corporation join its listeners in an expression of deep sorrow on the death of our president.
Edwin, perhaps the most shocked of anyone at the death of the president, aside from his family, that is, was the Secret Service assigned to guard him during this, what was hoped to be a joyous trip to Texas. And for more than 2 weeks before the trip, Secret Service agents had been working quietly in the city of Dallas to prevent the very thing that did happen yesterday, the assassination of the president. They had inspected the site for the president's speech. They had carefully looked over the route of his motorcade, talked to individuals whom they knew the president would come into contact with, even kept a log of all known troublemakers in the Dallas area so they could check their whereabouts and their habits. At first, the Secret Service even had vetoed the site of President Kennedy's speech, the Dallas Trade Mart, on the grounds that there were too many balconies from which a possible assassin might hide. They gave in on the site of the speech only after making sure that each one of the 14 entrances to the building would be covered, that all persons coming and going could be kept under constant surveillance. The Secret Service personnel supervised the selection of the menu that the president enjoyed while he was there. They overlooked the preparation of the food to make sure that the president received nothing different from that eaten by others. For example, there was no special steak prepared for the president on Thursday evening. It was picked from among thousands that were being prepared for dinner guests that night, picked at random. They made sure that all points along the route of the president's motorcade were carefully guarded, especially the points of underpass that the bubble-top limousine had to pass. All congested intersections and places where crowds would gather had an extra complement of police. They even enlisted 350 policemen from the Dallas force to be on hand the day of the assassination. Everything carefully covered, but of course impossible to watch each one of tens of thousands of windows which overlook the route of the motorcade, and from one of those windows, the assassin's bullet. We might read to you a letter received by Senator John Tower of Texas some months ago, written by Lee Harvey Oswald, a man being held in Dallas, charged with murder in connection with the assassination. Oswald at the time was in the Soviet Union, and he wrote to Senator Tower of Texas as follows. My name is Lee Harvey Oswald, 22, of Fort Worth, up until October of 1959, when I came to the Soviet Union for a residual document for a non-Soviet persons living for a time in the USSR. The American Embassy in Moscow is familiar with my case. Since July 20th, 1960, I have unsuccessfully applied for a Soviet exit visa to leave this country. The Soviet refuses to permit me and my Soviet wife, who applied at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow on July 8th, 1960, for immigration status to the USA, to leave the Soviet Union. I am a citizen of the United States of America, and I beseech you, Senator Tower, to raise the question of holding by the Soviet Union of a citizen of the U.S. against his will and expressed desires. And it's signed, yours very truly, Lee H. Oswald. The 24-year-old man, at the time he wrote the letter, he was 22, now 2 years later, being held in Dallas, Texas, charged with the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. We might add that Oswald protests his innocence, says he did not kill the president nor anyone else. We might also mention that Texas does have capital punishment in the form of electrocution. The ailing 75-year-old father of the president has been told that his son is dead from an assassin's bullet. Mrs. Rose Kennedy, the president's mother, Senator Edward Kennedy, their son, and a daughter, Eunice Shriver, all were present at the time. A neurologist, Dr. Russell Bowles, Jr. of Boston, stood by as the sad word was given to the elder Mr. Kennedy. His reaction was not made public. Mr. Joseph P. Kennedy, whose life filled with both success and grief, advised of his son's death shortly after Mrs. Kennedy returned from St. Francis Xavier's Church, where she had attended 2 masses this morning. More on this tragic story now as we go back to Dallas and NBC's Tom Pettit.
Now, what is your speculation as to what the motive may have been?
I try not to speculate on any crime. I don't think it pays to speculate on a crime.
Is there any feeling among the Dallas police force that this might have been avoided?
None that I know of. As far as being avoided, certainly you might say that it could have been avoided had you had someone in every window and every building. But the feeling among the Dallas Police Department, as it is with every other citizen in the country, is one of deep grief and deep regret.
Thank you very much, Chief M.W. Stevenson, Deputy Chief of the Dallas Police Department. That is the picture at this hour at Dallas Police Headquarters. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News.
One of the noticeable and striking aspects of the events since the murder of President Kennedy has been the part played by his brother, the Attorney General Robert Kennedy. It is on Robert Kennedy that Mrs. Kennedy has most relied. He was at the airport last night when she came in. And he has, as far as we know, been with her almost continuously since. There will be we're just told, a press briefing, that is to say a meeting with the reporters at the White House by the White House News Secretary, Pierre Salinger, in about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes from now. And we may at that time receive information as to the definite funeral plans for the president. What we do not know at this moment, it has not been specifically stated where the president is to be buried. The presumption is that it will be in the Kennedy family plot in Brookline, Massachusetts, but that has not been specifically announced. The body is to be taken tomorrow to the Capitol. It will be there for about 21 hours. Funeral services are to be held late on Monday morning at St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington. And probably the president will be buried in the Kennedy family plot in Brookline, Massachusetts, but that has not been specifically announced. We are told that it was Attorney General Kennedy who was at the side of Mrs. Kennedy at the White House. Is Robert Goralski on this line? Can he hear me? Can Robert Goralski hear me?
Yes, I can, Ed. Go ahead.
Robert, do you know, has Mrs. Kennedy gone into the East Room?
I've been standing out here for the last half hour or so, Ed, and the only member of the Kennedy family that I've seen arrive here at the North Portico has been one of the children of Attorney General Robert Kennedy. That was about 15 minutes ago. I would imagine that most of the family came here quite early this morning, and they have been in the White House for quite some time, and went directly then to the East Room at 10 o'clock, at which time they saw the president's body lying in repose. The newsmen were admitted to the East Room a little after 9 o'clock, and there we saw the catafalque. The casket is draped in an American flag. At each corner, a member of the Armed Services, a member of the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force standing at rigid attention. And while we were in there, there were two priests of the Roman Catholic Church who were praying on two portable kneeling arrangements that had been brought in late last night by two priests from St. Matthew's Cathedral. It will be at St. Matthew's that the president will be, that the Requiem Mass for the president will be said on Monday.
We have just received word from Dallas that the gravely wounded Governor John Connally has been told by his wife that President Kennedy is dead. Mrs. Connally talked to the Texas governor shortly after 7 o'clock this morning, Dallas time, and Connally's first question was about the president's condition. After hearing the answer from his wife, he said, "That's what I was afraid of." One of Connolly's aides, Julian Reed, describes Governor Connolly's condition this morning as much improved. He said that the governor also asked about Mrs. Kennedy and was told that she had returned to Washington. Several of Connolly's relatives hurried to Dallas yesterday. These include 4 brothers, his sister, and his mother. Said Reed, the first Mrs. Connolly knew of any shooting was when her husband whirled and saw the president fall forward. This must have been about 2 seconds after President Kennedy was shot. Connolly's turn, which was to the left, probably saved his own life. After the governor was shot, he also toppled forward. Reed said the most discomforting thing for Connolly is that his right arm is suspended by ropes and pulleys in a cast from above the elbow to below the wrist. Reed said Connolly called the cast heavy and bothersome.